Sometimes when you're overwhelmed, you close your eyes, take a deep breath, and try and clear your mind of everything. So much tends to happen at once. Tests pile up, breakups happen, projects hang over your head, and so you try to get away from it all for at least 1 second. You try to think of nothing. Or maybe you're just trying to get to sleep and you just can't get your mind to turn off, so you try to think of nothing. It's quite a challenge, this thinking of nothing, isn't it? In fact, I'd say it's impossible. The second you even talk about nothingness or think about nothingness, you're talking and thinking about something. Let me put it another way. Why is there something rather than nothing? It doesn't take a whole lot of imagination to tell us that we live in an amazingly diverse world. You don't have to look at a map or even travel very far to see this. Just look in your own backyard. Look at the sky, look at the many trees, the colorful birds, and look at yourself. As a human being, you're by far the most complex creature on this planet. We're surrounded by so much, and it's all we've ever known. So let's get back to that question of why we can't imagine nothing. Well, another way of putting it would be, where did our universe come from in the first place? Have you ever wondered? Has all this just always been here from the start? It seems pretty unlikely because we know that everything dies eventually. So if matter is not eternal, where did it all come from? Well, we're joined by Andy Bannister. Andy, thanks for being here.
Good to be here.
And we've been talking about how impossible it is to imagine nothingness and maybe even to think about it in a meaningful way. So in the simplest terms, why is there something rather than nothing, and why is that question so important?
Well, I think it's one of the most profound questions of all, Nathan, is you identify why is there something rather than nothing. Of all the great kind of philosophical questions we can ask, it's the most profound. We look at the world around us, it's a world full of stuff, people and animals and things, from the biggest planets in the sky to the smallest atoms that we can examine with a microscope. But why does that have to be there? You know, I can imagine a world in which you don't exist. I can imagine a world in which America doesn't exist, where planet Earth doesn't exist, where things were different. Things don't have to be the way they are. And so at the ultimate level, why does anything have to be here? It seems counterintuitive to say that, well, you know, the universe that we find ourselves in simply had to be here. It could have been different, and therefore we could imagine a reality in which there was nothing at all entirely. The question, why is there something rather than nothing, tells us why we are here. Not just why the universe is here, but why you and I are here.
Now, as we've talked about, we do live in a universe that has an abundance of variety, but why do we have to have something at all, and where did this start from?
Well, I think the problem is this, that when you begin looking at the universe through scientific eyes, science likes to work in terms of cause and effect. So you see an effect, you explain that in terms of the cause. That cause is itself an effect, so behind that is a cause, and you work backwards. But how do we get to there in the first place? What was the first cause? And science is increasingly focused in the direction of things like the Big Bang and that kind of language. Well, if that's the case, what lit the blue touch paper? As somebody once quipped, if there is a Big Bang, we need a Big Banger. So if you look backwards towards the beginning, things get tricky. But when we look forwards towards the end, well, we see the universe is winding down. It does appear to be going somewhere. And there's general consensus among scientists that, in a few billion years' time or so, everything will come to a great stop. So the universe has not been here forever.
Well, if matter is not eternal, as you've talked about, there is an end to things and there must be a beginning. Where does it come from?
Well, I think the first thing is we can rule out some options, the scientific worldview. Science does a wonderfully good job of explaining how the something we have now operates. So if you want to understand the way the universe behaves, and atoms and particles and all the things that scientists get excited about, science is a fantastic tool. It works very well once we have something. In fact, the question is not a scientific one. The question is a philosophical one or a theological one. And the answer the Christian would give, of course, is, well, lying behind reality itself, the universe itself, why there's something rather than nothing, is that lying behind it all is a personal creator God who is not material. God is not made of some kind of stuff in the same way that you and I are made of stuff and atoms and matter. The God of the Bible is spirit, he's immaterial, he's personal. And he is the reason why there is something rather than nothing.
Picking up on the idea that this is a theological question, how does the person of Jesus Christ fit into this discussion? What does Christ have to do with our creation?
Well, it's fascinating that you raise Christ at this point, Nathan, because there are many other worldviews out there, some of which would agree with the Christian, that there is a God lying behind everything. For example, the religion of Islam, that is vastly different to Christianity. They too believe that there is a creator God. However, what's interesting, almost without exception, each and every one of those alternative worldviews has a God who is distant and remote and unknowable, almost a kind of philosophical principle rather than a person. So yes, he may be there as almost a kind of abstract philosophical principle, but we have no way of knowing and relating to him directly. Where Jesus comes into the picture is the God of the Bible didn't remain distant from his creation, but in the person of his Son, Jesus Christ stepped in to that creation. So not merely does the Christian worldview posit and claim that there is a creator God who is the reason there is something rather than nothing, but that creator God is knowable because of what he has done in the person of Jesus. And that brings a whole radical new slant to the question of who created the universe, because not merely is God there, but God, says the Bible, is the God who is knowable.
Well, thank you very much, Andy.